Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. Today I'm going to show you how to plant your vertical towers in the fall, September 7th today, to really grow leafy greens, cool weather crops. I love growing leafy greens. The vertical towers are perfect for doing that in the spring, for doing it in the fall. And in September, you want to do a combination of transplants if you have them, but you still have time to direct seed, so I'll show you how to do that. These are GreenStalk garden vertical planters. Check out the video description if this is something you may want to grow in. I've been using these for years. I highly recommend them. So I want to make this quick and simple. We don't need to dump out the soil. We don't need to do any fancy amendments. Plants have been growing in here over the summer. I cleaned them out a while ago, left in some marigolds. In all my other towers over here, I have strawberries growing. This is all going to be transitioned over to really flowers and strawberries. But I like keeping at least one vertical tower for leafy greens. Couple of tricks. In a single tier, there's 6 pockets. You can put in as much lettuce, spinach, arugula into the tiers as you want. That means you could do 6 lettuce plants, 6 spinach, 6 arugula, combination of both. But if you're growing bigger plants like Swiss chard or kale, maybe 1 or 2 of those plants per level. So that means in 6 pockets, you know, a Swiss chard there, maybe a kale on the other side, and the rest should be a smaller leafy green. You don't want to overfill these with massive root systems, and kale and Swiss chard just get really big root systems. So first thing you want to do is set up the soil. It's September 7th. We're not going to do anything fancy. If you happen to have compost, that's great. Fill your container almost to the top with additional compost if you have it. If not, any potting mix or any kind of container mix that you're using works perfectly well. You can see that this is really dry, and I would bring this, well, let's just actually do it. I'll bring this up, and I'll do this for each pocket, and we're just going to fill it till it gets, you know, almost to the top. This is really dry. Next thing we want to do is just loosen up the growing space. Once this is loosened, we're going to soak this in really well with the hose. And instead of filling this from the top, which is what you can do with these vertical towers from GreenStalk, I'm going to hit each level, each pocket, and really saturate the soil. You want to get everything back in shape. This has been sitting, it's dry. Fill it full of moisture. And then the next step is going to be watering in each pocket with some water-soluble fertilizer. Let me get this set up with soil. The pockets of the vertical tower are filled just about to the top. You just want it to look something like this. I also have about 1,600 YouTube videos all about gardening. You can find videos there on how to make your own container mix, potting mix cheaply, so that you don't have to spend a lot of money in bagged mixes. But you can use anything you want. In September, going into the fall, you don't have to dump this out. You don't have to amend it. Soil that's in containers or in these vertical towers is really good for a good 3 years. All you want to do is bring the soil level up to about there, and then really soak in every pocket. I'm going to go through and fully saturate it just like that. It's really important that you get moisture throughout the entire container in all the potting mix. A lot of times peat moss is used. If it's dried out during the summer, it's really hard sometimes for it to absorb water. You don't want your plants that you're putting in now to suffer because everything's not fully saturated. So you really want to spend a good amount of time doing this. After we put the water in, we're going to put in the water-soluble fertilizer. We're not using granular fertilizer. We're not using slow-release fertilizer. We want to use the water-soluble because it's going to give the plants NP and K that it can use right away. If we put in water-soluble now, and maybe we're putting in too much water, we could rinse some of that out. So the fertilizer is going to go in after this. The prep work is really important. You want to get everything set up so that it's easy to pop in your transplants, just drop the seeds, and then really you just have to keep this watered. So pockets are filled, everything is saturated. I'm using again AgroThrive. It's a better alternative. It's organic than fish emulsion. It doesn't smell like fish emulsion. And just put in 1, 2, 3, 4. 3-4 seconds of a pour. That's all you need to set up the pocket. Because this is not fish, if you have trouble with animals digging in your garden when you use fish emulsion, use AgroThrive and you're not going to have that problem. So I'm going to go through each pocket, put in 3 or 4 seconds worth of the water-soluble fertilizer, and then we'll get to planting. Okay, we're ready for planting. Pop out your transplant, and you're going to just gently loosen up the root ball get the roots moving in different directions, and we're just going to plant up to the same level of soil that was in the container. We're not going to go really much past right where my finger is. You just make a hole in the soil with your hand, nothing fancy, and you might find you still have dry soil in there. I really just want to stress how important it is to just soak everything now before you put in your seeds and your plants. Just get everything really saturated. If this has been baking in the sun and neglected, it's going to be bone dry. So you make the little pocket, drop it in, and just backfill. Once the soil's around there, you're just going to press it in. We'll water everything in again at the end. For lettuces and for spinach, I will put 6 of them into a pocket. The roots don't get massive. You can grow plenty of arugula, spinach, lettuce, any kind of leafy green in these tiers. Again, when we put in, say, a Swiss chard or a kale, you only want 1 or 2 of those plants per tier. That means 1 pocket or 2 pockets. The rest should be leafy greens. There's 5 tiers here, which means 6 pockets per tier, 30 pockets. Now up top I put the kale. 1 back there, 2, and a third one over there, 3. Kale's going to get huge. If you're just growing 1 kale plant or even a collard to full size, which is going to get really big, you just want to put 1 in a pocket, wherever, or 1 in a tier, whatever pocket you want to put it in. If you put them down in the bottom, sometimes that's better because the height will come up this way. If it's something that flops over, you can secure it to the other tiers in some way. I'm going to be harvesting this when the plants get to about this size. I'm going to be taking a lot of smaller leaves, so I'm planting more into the pocket. And that's my tip for kale, collards, and Swiss chard. Chard just gets huge, so you definitely don't want to overdo it. So we have loose leaf lettuces, you know, light heading lettuces like romaine in there, or semi-compact or whatever you want to call it, romaine in there. Down at the bottom is where I'll put in the seeds. Spinach, arugula, endive, anything that meets the leafy green. I'm not going to show you the seed planting because that's kind of boring, but you just set up the soil surface like that. Depression, maybe 1/4 inch, a little further if you're doing spinach. Put in 2 or 3 spinach seeds and then just lightly cover it over, press it in, lightly water it. You're good to go. Arugula, 2 or 3 seeds. You can thin them down to the strongest plant if you want. Arugula will get really large. You can also overplant arugula in there, do more seeds, cut it when it's smaller. Endive, I recommend just 1 plant. But whenever you're seeding, you just want to make sure you put in 2 or 3 seeds because you don't want to wait around for 1 seed to germinate that's not going to germinate. And when they do, and maybe they're, I don't know, 1/2 inch tall, thin them down to the strongest. Also, when I bought transplants, the romaine lettuce here was just way overseeded. So I have 2 or 3 plants in there. Whatever one establishes looks the best, in about 7 to 10 days, I'm going to keep and I'm going to remove the other ones. You definitely just want 1 plant in here because these plants are going to get massive. Please subscribe and follow me. I'll show you how well these grow. I'll show you how to take care of them. And if you've been following my channel before and you're interested in the Rusted Garden Red vertical tower, they are a limited run and they haven't been around for 2 years. They are coming out again in October, maybe November. I don't have the exact date, but follow me, check out my community tab on my YouTube channel, and I will be letting people know when they can pick up these new red vertical towers from GreenStalk Garden. And finally, when everything is seeded and planted, just give it a quick watering, something low. You don't want to knock the seeds out of the plant. And that'll just get enough water around the plant. We've soaked this down well. For feeding, again, we're using the water-soluble fertilizer. This is all you really need. That big soaking that we just did is plenty, really, probably for the rest of the season. You could give the plants maybe 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Another quick drink, 1-2 seconds in each pocket, but you don't really have to overdo this. Most of our greens, lettuce definitely is like 90% water, so you really want to keep these watered. The water-soluble fertilizer is all they need, so you don't have to spend a lot of money to replant these. Just get the seeds in. If you have transplants, that will get you going. But these are going to be massive, so please follow me and I'll show you what these look like and how to take care of them. September is a great time for the leafy greens. For those of you that don't know, they can freeze. A frost can come in, freeze everything that we're growing here. Lettuces, spinach, arugula, kale, collards, and the leaf doesn't get destroyed. It can freeze through It'll defrost, the cell stays intact, and you can continue to grow. That's why we're growing these again in the fall. Not only do they love the cool weather, they're going to taste better, but they can take a frost. So I'll be able to grow well into late November here in Maryland Zone 7. So now's a perfect time to set up a leafy green vertical tower. And again, subscribe. I'll be doing a whole series on fall gardening in containers. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com and check out my blog, The Rusted Garden Journal. You can find that in the video description. Thanks for watching.